Public Protector Thula Madonsela has described the call for a basic income grant as returning to Ubuntu. If I invest in you, I'm investing in myself. That's how she's described it. She's also called for an urgent rethink of capitalism and basically advocating for the sustainability in as far as the provision of a basic income grant is concerned. Well, the Black Sash has for long also been fighting for this particular issue. So let me welcome to the show tonight the University of Stellenbosch Law Professor Thula Madonsela and Black Sash National Education and Training Manager Amanda Rinquest. Good evening to both of you, and thank you so much for your time tonight.
Good evening, Kathy. Thank you for the privilege, and good evening to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Kathy.
All right. Prof. Madonsela, let me begin with you. And I know that you're fresh from Kilimanjaro, so appreciate the fact that you've made time for us. You must be exhausted being able to summit the mountain twice, twice in as many years, I believe it is. So congratulations on that. But you come back, of course, to a climate in the country where we are really grappling with how to deal with the social inequalities that have been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. In as far as the social relief of distress grant, why do you think government needs to continue paying it until there's some kind of resolution on the basic income grant?
Thank you, Kathy. I think the social grant, the relief grant is extremely important as a social justice initiative. It gives people a bit of money to keep them alive. Of course, we would have preferred that the amount would be at least 560, which is the food poverty line. But of course, half a loaf is better than no bread at all. It will give families a bit of money to work with. For example, I know that from this 350 rand, people can buy a bag of mealie meal. They can buy some cooking oil, and they may buy some soups just to make sure that there is a little bit of nutrition to go with the mealie meal. It's not a lot, but it does mitigate hunger. It also offers some people a bit of money to secure the food side, whilst any little amount they have, they can use either to look for jobs or to start something that will earn them a living. It also builds local economies because this is little money, and therefore somebody is not likely to spend it at a mall. They're likely to spend this money in the spaza shops, which means it can add to the vibrancy of broken local economies in the townships and in the villages.
Amanda, as the Black Sash, you've been going back and forth with this issue for years now. And when you look at the approach that is often taken by government in trying to respond to this issue, do you think we have the right approach? Should we be looking at assistance, social protection in this country as a burden on the state versus a mechanism to enable citizens of this country to actually lead better lives?
Thank you so much for that question, Kathy. In all honesty, I don't think that the South African government has the correct approach to social assistance. I think it's often seen as this kind gesture that the government does out of the goodness of their heart, when in fact it's rooted in Section 27 of the Constitution, which requires the government to provide social assistance for those who cannot support themselves. And so the government's approach must be starting from what is its constitutional mandate. And its constitutional mandate is to provide for the poor and for those who can't support themselves, and to find money and to have an approach where we recognize that poverty and inequality are not things that are going to go away anytime soon. It's not going to go away when wave 3 ends, and that we need to have a more long-term approach to social assistance and to creating a social protection for all South Africans and all people living in South Africa.
Amanda, what you're raising is so important. Perhaps, Prof. Madonsela, you also want to weigh in on it. Just this idea that oftentimes government make South Africans feel as if they're being done a favor by being given these different types of grants?
No, Amanda is right. It is an issue of socioeconomic rights, and this is the right to food, the right to social security, and the right to social assistance as entrenched in Section 27. But I also do think that it is also an investment in a vibrant and sustainable ecosystem. And therefore, it's not just a human rights issue, it's also a social investment in a stable society. It's also an economic investment in a vibrant economy, because for us to regenerate as a society, we need to give everyone roots and wings to grow with the society.
Amanda, there are some who have been somewhat skeptical about the timing of this announcement. We know that the SRD grant was stopped and started again and then finally stopped. And some are saying, well, we are still very much in the cycle of local government elections, and this could be done very much in the context of that. As the Black Sash, are you confident that this will be more than just about trying to pacify what is seen as a crisis in this moment, and come March 2022, we move on, and it's simply not something that is on the national agenda?
Yes, well, at the Black Sash, we are hopeful and hoping this is not just an election tool, and that this is something that the government sees as something that is long-term. It's something that DSD has spoken about. It's something that the Department of Women, Children and Youth have spoken about. The President has spoken about it in his capacity as the President of the Republic, and during his January 8th statement as the ANC leader. So we do hope that this is not just political talk. There is, DSD has drafted some policy that it is asking NGOs for their input and others for their input. So we do hope that this is the start of something long-term, which is what we need. We want universal basic income for all. And until such a time, we would like a grant that meets the needs of those who are in the missing middle, the 18 to 59.
Prof. Madonsela,
beyond elections.
Yeah. Why do you believe that this conversation should lead us to where we are also rethinking capitalism?
I think it's a kind of conversation that started a long time ago. Just Capital, the UN Global Compact, and many other wise business people have been saying that capitalism as we know it has been its own enemy and an enemy of sustainable democracies and the rule of law. And it's just not sustainable to have the bulk of society unemployed, the bulk of society angry, hungry, and just generally disconnected from activities in society. The idea of having a basic income grant is to make sure that nobody starves. And it's not true that if we give people a basic income grant, they're going to be lazy and we will not have a labor force. We know that modern capitalism is increasingly dependent on digitalization as we go into the fourth industrial revolution and possibly the fifth industrial revolution. And then we're never going to need an army of people as a workforce. And secondly, people, when they are hungry and totally hungry, they can't even look for work anyway. So to say you're going to starve them so that they can look for work doesn't make sense. If we invest in people, we are going to invest not just in their nutrition and health, we're also going to be able to ensure that people get educated and they get the right skills. And therefore, we're thinking of a different kind of capitalism, not the cutthroat exploitative capitalism. The kind of capitalism you'll find in social democracies. Because, Kathy, truth be told, our constitution enjoins us to establish a social democracy. The president spoke the other day about how the constitution talks about healing the divisions of the past and establishing a society that is based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. And that definitely is a call to rethink capitalism, to create a more egalitarian society.
Amanda, when you think about this idea of a social democracy, are we anywhere near that? Just when you take a look at how many of the decisions, even around the structural nature of the challenges of this economy and how that contributes to unemployment, that much of the decisions, when they are being explained away, government seems to be hamstrung by market forces. What will the market say? That is often the reasons given for why things cannot be done or why things cannot be radically changed.
Yes, we have a minister of finance who is set in his ways and dismisses any talks of killing austerity, who dismisses talks of having a more just economy, who thinks that other people's views are not worthy than the economists that he surrounds himself with. And what that means is that while he pontificates on uncertain markets and uncertain junk status and what might the markets respond to, while he considers all these uncertainties, the certainty that Prof. Madonsela has alluded to is that people are starving. It is a certainty in South Africa that 7 million caregivers up until this month had no form of income, couldn't qualify for this 350 Rand grant up until Sunday's announcement. It is a fact that 18 million South Africans are dependent on a social grant because they are excluded from an economy that isn't able to provide jobs. Because as much as Tito, the Minister Mboweni, wants to speak about job creation, the jobs are not coming. The jobs are not here. The president has made numerous statements about 1 million jobs by this amount of year, but that jobs are not coming, and in the meantime, people are starving and people are hungry, and that is why we live in a society and we have an economy that excludes people. And Prof is right, we must look at a different set of economic principles that we aim towards, and it must be that we have a more inclusive economy, because we can't continue to have millions of South Africans unemployed, needing grants, not qualifying for grants, etc.
The Black Sash's Amanda Rinquest and the Law Trust Chair in the Social Justice Department and Law Professor at the University of Stellenbosch, Prof. Thula Madonsela. Let me thank you both for your time tonight.